Don't shoot the messenger. It is what it is, folks. Let's go to Mike Gill, who's set to join us right here on Birds 365. You guys can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe to his YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show and listen to him on 97.3 ESPN down the shore, the best program in all of South Jersey. Mike, welcome to the program, my friend. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. You mean in April Fool's Day? That's not a joke, the article?
No joke there, Mike. I'm not a jokester, Mike. You know, I leave that for everybody else.
That is a very that is a very extensive joke, if it's a joke.
I feel that this team generally gets a bombshell article like this, once every 4 to 5 years, where it hits a peak and then things just slowly start to unravel, and it's like, well, they just won the Super Bowl, and it's like 2 years later, you're like, well, that was 2 years ago. Look at now. And you're thinking, well, do you really want to have to blow the whole thing back up again? Because, I mean, if you're saying that the quarterback essentially doesn't want to learn new tricks, I always sports are such an interesting thing. These guys get paid so much money that you really can't tell them what to do. They work their whole lives to get to a spot in sports that now they no longer want to do the actual thing to continue to get better. It's like, I've made it. And he's an interesting story because he's like the coach's son, and that's always been the thing. It's like, but when do you get to this level where you're like, I made it and you're not telling me anything? I don't want to get any better. I don't want to change anything. This is the way we're doing it, whether you like it or not. Like, the whole evolution of sports is just gone off the rails someplace. It's very frustrating when you read stuff like this.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's as damning as people will take it. I think it's more damning to the ideas of maybe people that sort of build a theory based on a foundation that's shaky, is how I described it. In other words, look, I don't think Jalen Hurts is, and it's funny because at times he's described as, a coach's kid. He likes hard coaching. He wants hard coaching. And then at other times it's like, well, he won't do this. He won't do that. I think it's more he's not comfortable doing this, and he's been very successful doing something else. So the question is, I'm pretty good at this, and I don't really like this. Like, is that rare with great players?
That's fine to say, but to almost the way that it seemed to me almost is like that you're unwilling to try it. Like, you're unwilling to even see if it's something that you can incorporate. I don't want to do it. I have no interest, almost like I have no interest in evolving. I'm good with what I'm doing. It's like Ben Simmons. I don't need to shoot. I'm still an all-star. I'm still scoring 18 points a game. I don't need to learn how to shoot because I'm still, like, he would say stuff like, I'm still an all-star. And people would say, yeah, but you could be an elite player if you incorporated this. Well, I don't need to. And this is almost like what you're hearing here is like, I won a Super Bowl doing this. I don't need to do that. And it's like, do you want to win one Super Bowl? I know that sounds selfish. Like, that almost sounds like, well, that's cool. You won your cute little one Super Bowl. Do you want to win another one, or do you want to just be the guy that won one? And it's like, I don't know how you wouldn't be unwilling to just listen and say, okay, let's incorporate this. Let's see if it's something, to say that I'm uncomfortable doing it. Why? Why are you uncomfortable doing it? You've never tried it before.
Mike, the irony of today's article that's come out, and you bring up that it feels like one of these comes every 4 or 5 years. I would say it feels like one comes every 1 to 2 years. But maybe. The irony of today's is yesterday the owner spoke at the meetings and spoke almost as glowingly as you can possibly speak about the quarterback of the team right from the owner. And then I wake up this morning and I read this article and I'm like, is the owner, is he naive to it? Does he not believe it? Does he have a different perspective on it? I mean, how do you kind of reason those two things where you read this article on one hand, which seemingly comes across as scathing on Jalen Hurts, and then the owner who, for lack of a better word, loves Jalen Hurts?
Yeah. Well, listen, if you're the owner of the football team, Jalen Hurts is probably everything you want in the face of the franchise, right? He's never in trouble. He barely talks. I mean, that's one thing I think is the interesting part here, is that you have a franchise quarterback who to the fan base is you can't connect with the guy. Normally you have a franchise quarterback and he's the face of the team and he's everywhere. He can't not be seen. And the connection with that guy is with the fan base so great. So maybe behind closed doors, Lurie is saying, look, I got this guy. He's great. He never gets in trouble. He's everything you want in a quarterback. But on the outside, we don't see that because he's just so stoic, right? Like you picture these franchise quarterbacks and you've got, Brady and Montana and, guys who are just always in the limelight, and Hurts is so opposite of that. So Lurie, I think, likes the perception of who he has as his quarterback. But you might say, does he not know this stuff's going on? I don't know, man. I don't know what it's like in that building. I don't know what it's like. Is he there every day? I think he's a pretty hands-on guy, right? He's not one of these guys that takes his helicopter and goes flying someplace else.
Yeah, he was talking about, he's texting Howie at 4 a.m. about the long snapper.
So I got to imagine if Hurts is he could be the teacher's pet. The way the story puts it out is that he's uncoachable and other people see it and they're frustrated by it. And Lurie maybe doesn't look at it as big of a deal because he has success and maybe it's a very tough, we've all kind of seen these things, in our own lives of like, man, how does the guy who's in charge not see what a phony this guy is? Now, I'm not calling Jalen Hurts a phony, but I'm saying like maybe the other guys are saying, how are they not seeing what this guy's doing to the locker room here? Because he's so charming.
That's always interesting to me, and that's why I kind of throw that stuff. There was one team source who said poor body language, not always bought in, not the most coachable, and the players notice. So
if I'm judging Jalen Hurts just of what I see on a television screen, that's it. I've never met Jalen Hurts. I've never been in the building with Jalen Hurts. I don't know anything about the guy. I would say this guy's very hard to connect with, like very hard to connect with as an observer. Then I would say he seems unrelatable as a teammate. Like, I can't relate to you. You're almost too good, too goody two-shoe. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's kind of, and what I said, which didn't go over well, but I probably shouldn't say it again. But he's Carson Wentz in a different fashion. With Carson, it was more tough to connect with.
I remember the Wentz stuff and reading it and saying, I could see this being accurate. I mean, think about it. Carson Wentz grew up in North Dakota.
Yeah. Very religious.
How much diverse interaction did he have in his life before he's now?
Well, I think it was more. It was more about the religion when it comes to Carson, but
still, like that. But that's all encompassing. That's his life. Is the religion, and he's very boxed into an area that just doesn't get exposed to a lot. Now you're dropped into a locker room with guys that are coming from all over the country, and they're looking at this guy and saying, I can't relate to you at all. And he's saying, well, I can't relate to you at all. Like, the disconnect is obvious in that situation. Hurts, the disconnect there seemingly is he's not connectable. He's not willing to open up.
He's aloof. I've been saying that term for how long, Xander? He's aloof.
Now,
if you go to Webster's, aloof could say poor body language, not always bought in, not the most coachable, and players notice. That's the definition of aloof.
So you see him and you're around him. When I see him on television responding to questions, I don't get aloof from his answers, meaning like I just feel that he's just so serious all the time, and people can't connect with that. One of the things in my business, there are guys who are straight talking sports. It's all they do is they talk sports. That's a very niche audience. There are people that say, well, that guy talks sports. I like him. There are very few of those people. And you say, well, why is the guy that gets the afternoon spot, he don't know anything about sports? he's more relatable. You can connect with him. So the other guy might know more about sports, but the other guy is self-deprecating. He's a little bit more relatable. He lets you in on his life a little bit more. Hey, I went out with my buddies the other night. We had a beer. That guy gets higher ratings than the guy on Saturday morning who just tells you the Eagles run a 34 defense. And while there's a group of people who really respect that guy and like that guy, the clown in the afternoon
sounds like you're describing me. I'm not the clown in the afternoon. Not
but you would be a guest, John. You are a great guest. You're a great information person. Yeah. On my show, when we first introduced football at 4, it sounded ridiculous at first. Like, we're going to talk football every single day.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, we're pulling 20 ratings because I could give a little levity. You give the information, and it works. That's what Hurts needs, the levity. He needs, a little bit of self-deprecation here and there. Hey, I threw that ball. It slipped out of my fingers. He gives you nothing. No personality. No look at who he is.
True. That part's true. That part is true.
But I think it also is true. It's seemingly true. I don't know this. I'm not. Don't take me at my word on this one. Like, Andy Reid was very stoic in public, but the reports were behind closed doors. He was the class clown.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not the reports on Jalen Hurts. It's not like he goes up on the podium and tells you blah, 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 blah. And then behind closed doors, I messed with all those guys out there. No. And that's where I think he is just an unrelatable guy to the other 52.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, not all, but that's fair. He is not relatable to everybody. But I never look, when you get 90 people together, I always say, look at your own life. Yeah, the next 90 people, and some people might not even know 90 people. I use 90 because that's an off-season roster.
Yeah.
You're not going to get 90 people to get along in any walk of life. Any walk of life. It just doesn't exist. So not everybody, to me, that's not important to, it's great to have everybody in assume. I guarantee it doesn't matter who you think the best leader is. You see, think about Michael Jordan and all the stories about him afterwards and just how, relentless he was and just how off-putting he was.
Look at him on The Last Dance, though, John. Look at him on The Last Dance. He's in the locker room. He's having cigars with the guys. He's messing around with the old gentleman who was like the security guard. Like, he was a relatable guy to some extent, but on the court, he rode people so hard that they almost resented him,
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a balance there. You don't hear anything about, and maybe this is a good thing. I'm not criticizing Jalen because his personal life isn't out there, but I'm sure most people didn't even know he had a girlfriend. And then all of a sudden he shows up with a woman. You're like, is he married? Like, what's his story? Nobody knows anything about this guy. And he's a Super Bowl champion quarterback in a town that kind of likes football.
What'd you make of the fourth down play call? That was a big one, Mike. Everybody talked about at the end of the year. Well, now it comes out Jalen. Jalen's the one who recommended the 4 verticals on 4th and 11 to end the season or whatever the hell it was.
At the time, everybody's ripping Petula about this.
Yeah, that's why I keep bringing it up.
By the way, can I get some apologies?
But I agree. I think it was pretty clear. Like, we're acting like Jalen Hurts was in the circle and he didn't say a word. Like, he had no input on that play. Get the hell out of here. That's why I said, Petula was just a sacrificial lamb of every other coordinator, handcuffed by what he has to do because of who his quarterback is. And we say this all the time, and it's, not to mention, you guys were talking about offensive line right before I came on. The offensive line wasn't where it normally was. So then he was handcuffed by his run game not being what it normally was, because normally he'd say, listen, I can at least lean on that to do what I want to do. But I didn't think there was no part of me that didn't think that Jalen Hurts wasn't standing in that circle and didn't say, that's the play we want to go with.
Yeah, but you can't overrule it, to be fair to Jalen. That's where Kevin Patullo and even Nick Sirianni has the final call. He can overrule it. So
but this goes back to where we are in sports, where the guy making all the money, you're going to tell him, sorry, dude, your opinion, boop, not working here today. Like, yeah, maybe if you're the ultimate badass coach and you tell that franchise quarterback to go kick rocks, but I don't know how many people have the stones to do that. Maybe the greats.
Oh, yeah. I think it's very important that people know that it was suggested by Jalen Hurts. And I don't even think, to me, the bigger issue is what happened on second and third down, not fourth and desperation. Yeah, fourth and desperation is fourth and desperation. And it didn't work. So I think, but you know how it works, Mike.
Yeah.
Everybody's, fourth down season. Who cut? Nobody even remembers what happened on third down. It's execute, and you're not even in that position. But
yeah, this stems back to how many plays are even in. Now, I heard what you were saying before. Simple. Look, there's a reason why Army, Navy, and the military academies run the same 4 plays, because they don't have the talent, but they also execute them perfectly because they're so disciplined. And that's what makes the military academies football programs competitive. They don't have the talent, but they execute one play and run it in 4 different variations. It's the same play all day long, and it's coming, and you can't stop it. Simple sometimes is better, no question about it. The question is, how many variations do the Eagles have if Jalen Hurts, in the professional level, that says, well, this is what we're doing because this is what our quarterback only wants to do. And he's now been on tape for 5 years. We have a sense of what he really likes to do. And unless he's really, really elite, we have figured you out, buddy. So you better, like Ben Simmons, find another peel of the onion if you want to evolve to the next level. So, yeah, you might be a good quarterback. And a lot of Jalen's success is a lot of off-script plays. Now, he does fine in moments, but there are times when the offense really, really struggles. When they ask him to, hey, can you make a throw over the middle of the field? He might connect on a deep ball, and a lot of times that's a chance play. That's not a skill play. I mean, I'm not saying it lacks skill, but if you're just throwing a 50-50 ball up and you happen to have A.J. Brown, there's sometimes that thing's going to come down and work. So what is the evolution of Jalen from quarterback of where he started to Super Bowl champion to now we're in this next phase of his career?
And I think this next phase is the most interesting part. I mean, you have Sean Mannion coming in, and he's apparently implementing a McVay-Shanahan type of system that's got motion and under center play action and all these different things. I mean, how do you reason with that coming off an article like this where apparently Jalen went, butted heads with Kellen Moore over the same type of concepts?
And John, I would ask you, you'd probably, Kellen, you've been in the room with him. He seems like a tough guy to butt heads with.
Yeah, he's not a disagreeable guy.
Right. But he seems like an old. But again, this goes off of the perception of what you see from me. I'm just reading the body language and what I'm getting here. It just seems like kind of an all shucksy kind of guy. Like it almost seems crazy to see Kellen Moore in a position of disciplined power where he has to be the iron fist guy. That's why, as a head coach,
that's the thing where he will stand up for himself. That's the thing,
right? That's the thing. I don't. You don't see that version of him in his offensive coordinator availability. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you're only reading, much like Hurts. You're only seeing what you see right here on the box. What do you get behind the scenes is completely different.
Ironically,
it sounds like Kellen Moore is giving you something different behind the scenes, where Jalen Hurts is giving you much of the same.
Ironically, the all shucks, I like that. Kevin Patullo was more of the all shucks guy than Kellen Moore, even though it probably didn't come across like that. Kellen was much more, entrenched and probably confident in his abilities as a coordinator.
And I guess Kellen is to the generation that he's coaching, many probably do remember his collegiate success. He was a very high profile.
Yeah, he's a big time college quarterback, and that plays into it as well. He's used
absolutely. That's what I mean. Yeah. Kellen Moore was a big time, very successful collegiate quarterback, and I'm sure that the guys he's coaching can probably say, "I do remember this guy playing." I think that has something to say with. All
right, here's what I want to boil it down for you, Mike, because this bothers me, and I don't understand it. Well, I think I do understand it, but I don't know why other people can't understand it. You never ever hear a traditional quarterback asked to play like a dual threat quarterback for obvious reasons, I think. Why is it always the other way around? Why does everyone want to turn Jalen Hurts into Brock Purdy, but not Brock Purdy into Jalen Hurts?
I'm not sure that people want to see Jalen become that. I see what you're saying. I don't know that the fans care that he evolves into whatever Mannion.
Well, I'm talking about. Forget about names. I'm talking about turning his back to the defense, which he's not comfortable with. There's traditional play action, traditional quarterback play, as opposed to what he's done, which, by the way, has been more successful than the guys they want to turn him into.
But I think that the fans, I'm just talking about with the fans, I don't think they care that he becomes whatever quarterback that you're envisioning. I think the frustration with him is that he doesn't want to be the quarterback that he even is. Hey, man, take off and run. Take off and use your legs.
Well, that I agree with.
Third down
You're
and 7.
100% right with
right.
That.
That's where I think I don't think they care so much if he turns into, whoever, like a statuesque pocket passer. It's more be the guy that made you the champion. And he is devolving from that guy. Third down and 7. There's the first down. Go get the sticks. The game against the Chargers. Herbert takes off on 3rd and 7. He gets that first down. And you're saying, well, why can't my guy, who used to do that all the time? I think the fans are looking and saying, you've devolved instead of evolved.
All right. So cut the fans out of it, because I agree with you. He needs to, and put that running part back into his game to be the same type of player. I agree with that 100%. Why are the Eagles hell-bent on Sean Mannion and play action and all? That's all they're talking about. Why?
Maybe Hurts has told them, I'm not interested in being that guy anymore. I don't want to run. So, okay, if you're not going to do that, we need to add more layers to the passing game, because what the passing game has been, if you're not willing to run, is not good enough.
Well, that's fair. And at that stage, if he won't run and he won't become a play action passer because he's not comfortable, then you got to look for another quarterback.
Right. Like if I say, you've been in the league, Jalen, now for 2021. So he's going into his 6th season here. You were successful in large part because you used your legs, the downfield throw. Guys were open because our run game was so good. Well, our line is not as good anymore. You're not running as much. People I've on tape now for 5 years running this offense. They're starting to do things that are shutting down some of the things that you had success in doing. So now we need to show them something different. If you're not willing to do that, we might have a crossroads here.
I think we've reached the crossroads. I think if he
when the long form article gets approved, you don't see long form reporting anymore. Yeah. When the long form reporting gets approved, that's when we've hit the crossroads, right? Yeah.
Well, look, if
in a world where they tell you 250 words, get out as many articles a day as you can.
Oh my God!
He's giving you a 25,000 word article. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't even start with me with that. I'll go on a tangent for 6 hours. That is a downfall of society. But I encourage everybody to read the article. And you're right, Mike. Look, if if they're doing this because he won't be the player he was, because of whatever reason, because of health or wanting to extend the shelf life, whomever, if you don't put that +1 back in the running game, they cannot succeed the way they played previously, and they cannot succeed the way they want to play now because the quarterback doesn't like to do it. So what are we doing? To me, it's like, what are you doing? What? You're just delaying the inevitable, which is another quarterback and a different coach and a different system and rebooting the whole thing.
Yeah, well, and a lot of times money, as we talked about, we get to a spot where the money takes over. The money takes over for the good and the bad. The money allows Hurts to have the say that he wants. It also locks him in to where the team can't really do much with him.
Yeah,
So
I'm not saying
damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
I'm just saying from a football perspective. You're right from a money perspective, not the time. But the point is the clock has started and something's got to give, whether it's him turning into a pocket passer or it's him turning back into what he was when he incorporated the running game as part of his skill set.
Well, and as you get older, I can't imagine the running part of your game is going to evolve more. That's usually going to decrease, and that's the problem with the running quarterback who flashes brilliance with their legs. What's the shelf life on those guys?
Well, the shelf life is shorter, no doubt about it. But right. I don't think he's still only 27 years old. He's going to be 28 in August. That. Yeah.
Most of these quarterbacks are playing 37, 30, 39 years old. So you would think Jalen Hurts has another 8 to 10 years left in him to play. And maybe he's cognizant of that as well and trying to extend his shelf life by not taking off as much, but in order to do that, he's going to have to evolve in the other areas of the game.
Yeah, that's fair. But I don't know if they're going about it the right way. In fact, I would say pretty.
Let me ask you this question. We haven't talked a lot about this. Everybody's talking about A.J. Brown. Is he going to be traded? Does he not want to be here? Does Jalen Hurts want A.J. Brown here?
Yeah, I think he does.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I think he does.
It's like nobody's talked about, everybody has hinted at they might trade him June 1st. Does he want to be here? Do they even want to trade him? But if we say that Jalen Hurts has so much say, have they said, Jalen, can you coexist with A.J. Brown again? What would his answer be?
I would say he doesn't. I don't want to say he doesn't care, but I don't think it's top of his list either way.
Like if you're Jalen Hurts and you are wondering, is my offense or is my play going to be better with or without him? I wonder what.
Well, I think he knows it's going to be better with him, and that's part of the reason why. But I also think he's realizing that. Can they
coexist in the same locker room?
Exactly. Well, it's not even personally. They don't get in fights. They're not the silent treatment. They were close. They're not as close. It's just, the guys constantly when things. And by the way, AJ's right. The ball doesn't come out on time. That's all AJ has said. The ball.
Well, how much of this report is what AJ is mad at? The stuff that's highlighting what Jalen.
99% of it. But it is what it is. At this point, I don't know. Like we might be in the death throes of the Jalen Hurts era, if this is what it's come to. But I don't. Ultimately, I've said from the start, I think Sean Mannion will get here. And he will see that, hey, this isn't going to work. And he will morph just like Kellen Moore did. And maybe that works. And maybe they're successful from a team standpoint if all the other stuff aligns. And the only thing that cures this is winning. And I mean winning at a high level, meaning Super Bowl. And then everything's.
You really put yourself in a box. You really put yourself in a box as if the only thing that you can do to prove I mean, listen, everybody trying to win the Super Bowl is the ultimate for everybody. But you really put yourself in a box that if that's the only thing, like,
well, I know, but that's
go tell another organization that you've won double-digit games, back-to-back divisions, been in the playoffs for 5 years, and
well, I know.
And tell them that that's not a successful.
You know what, Bob? I don't know if you saw Jeffrey's comments yesterday because they're long and you got to get through some stuff. But what the biggest thing that bothered me about Jeffrey's comments yesterday was he was running down Nick. He got the Nick Sirianni question. He was running down Nick's resume, which you just ran down, which is pretty fucking impressive. And he said something like, "Be real, be realistic." He's doing a great job. It's like, you're the guy who was thinking about firing him when he was 2-2.
Well, he can also admit that I have irrational thoughts too. I mean, he's human. I'll give him credit for that, right?
Well, that's true. That's true. But don't tell the rest.
What's the line of demarcation of you have a tremendous – now, they have won a Super Bowl, so that's already checked off and out of the way.
Yeah.
What's the line of demarcation, though, where you have a ton of success and then it's time to move on because you're not reaching the pinnacle?
Well,
like Baltimore won a Super Bowl with Harbaugh, and he had been there, 18 years, and they never were able to kind of get back there. And I guess they reached that line of demarcation. How long was that, though, from the last Super Bowl? You know,
they don't have the patience of Baltimore. They don't have the patience of Pittsburgh. That's already we already know that. I remember sitting in a bar in Minneapolis, and you were there. Well, the hotel bar, if you can call it that. And I remember saying, it might have been Bob Ford. I remember saying, well, Doug's got a lifetime dispensation card. It turns out, what was that? 3 years?
Well, yeah. I mean, would they have stuck with Doug had he acquiesced?
Maybe, but the point, I'm like, well, remember at the time, Super Bowl 52, remember the angst of this fan base. Remember, they had never had, that was number one. So that was more important. That was the first Lombardi trophy in Eagles history. And that's all anybody ever wanted. And you remember the parade, and there's people bringing out the remains of their fathers who passed away and loved the Eagles, and they're dumping their ashes on the parade. It was absurd, the relief and to get to that, and it lasted for 10 seconds. So the shelf life is very small.
There's a reason why lottery winners go broke.
That's true too. That's true. That's a good analogy. You get that at Mike Gill Show. Make sure you follow Mike on the X platform. 97.3 down the shore. Sports Bash 2 to 6.
Today's the day. First day, we're entering people to win Eagle Club Box tickets. Listen all day. We're giving you a chance to win Eagle 50-yard line club box tickets for a game.
Wow, that's a hell of a promo.
All right.
Yep.
Watch Jalen Hurts.
Actually.
Watch Jalen Hurts talk to the OC on the sideline.
Watch all that motion, which is the key to it all, Mike. The key to it all. More motion.
More motion.
No doubt. All right, Mike. We appreciate it, man. Thank you for joining in today. We will talk to you again next week. Thank you, brother.
See ya.
Thanks, Mike, joining us right here on Birds